Colonel Basil W. Duke led a regiment from John Hunt Morgan's cavalry. An interesting note of history here is that Duke was the brother-in-law to John Hunt Morgan. He accompanied General Henry Heth's march to Cincinnati, Ohio. Duke was looking for a way to cross the Ohio River when word came to him that the Union forces were gathering in Kentucky between Maysville and Cincinnati. Come along with us as Duke engages the Union forces located in the Snows Pond, Augusta, and Brooksville, Kentucky area. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine for our flight back in time, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger vehicle to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. The Snows Pond Skirmish. Confederate forces under the command of General Heth and Colonel Hutchinson first camped at Snows Pond on September 9, 1862. This was one of the base of operations that they made as they were advancing to attack the city of Cincinnati. Heth and Hutchinson advanced towards Covington, but saw that it was hopeless and retreated to Snows Pond on September 12th. They stayed only 4 days at this place until they moved down to Crittenden and Falmouth on September 16th. The Union forces, commanded by General Judah, marched from Ohio south into Florence, Kentucky, and made the town their headquarters. They extended the Union camp between Florence and Falmouth and camped and occupied the Confederate now abandoned Snow Ponds area. The Union had a problem here as their men were not really doing anything and seemed stagnant in their movements. This was a very attractive target to the Confederacy. On September 25, 1862, General Kirby Smith and Colonel Basil Duke were ordered to slow down the Union forces that were heading south into Kentucky. The 2nd Kentucky Cavalry, also known as Morgan's Men, were called upon for support. 600 Confederates were able to invade and skirmish the Union forces camping around the pond and the Union posts. These skirmishes went all the way to the camps at Walton and a little north of the area. In total, there were 65 captured on the Union side, with 2 Union soldiers wounded. Through these captured men, Duke learned that there were more forces gathering at Augusta, Kentucky. The Steamboat Battle. Taking the information about the gathering of the forces seriously, at the end of the skirmish at Snows Pond on September 26th, Duke moved his Confederate 2nd Kentucky Cavalry Regiment from Falmouth to the heights over Augusta on September 27th. It was part of Duke's plan to cross the Ohio River and force the Federal Army back from northern Kentucky to protect Cincinnati. At noon on September 27th, Duke and his forces approached Augusta from Brooksville and occupied the heights overlooking the city. However, 2 Union gunboats, the Florence Miller and Belfast, spotted them and they fired upon the Confederate forces. The Belfast fired 3 to 5 rounds of its 12-pounder howitzer, inflicting losses among the Confederate 2nd Kentucky Cavalry Regiment's gun crew. The Confederate artillery, a pair of 6-pounder mountain howitzers known as bullpups, returned the fire. These guns were able to strike a few hits on the boats, which caused anxiety among the boat captains. After the firing of the artillery, Duke sent the Confederate advance guard, Company A, to position themselves where they could fire upon the Union steamboats using a sandbar on the Ohio River just east of town. At the sight of the Company A coming down the hill, and also realizing that the Confederate artillery was inflicting damage to the lightly defended boats, the 2 Union steamboats moved up the Ohio River to safety. The Belfast had a single row of hay protecting its boiler. The Florence Miller counted over 150 bullet holes from small arms fire taken on from Company A at the sandbar. The City of Augusta Battle. With the gunboats now removed from the battle, Duke and his Company B and C moved into the city of Augusta and engaged the Bracken County Home Guard, commanded by Dr. Joshua T. Bradford. The Bracken County Home Guard was around 150 local citizens who were taking shelter in various brick buildings around the town. Using the second story of these buildings as sniper's nests, the Bracken County Home Guard began shooting at the Confederate 2nd Kentucky Cavalry Regiment as soon as they entered the town. This caused many casualties among the Confederate officers. Hearing the gun battle was now taking place in the town of Augusta, Company A, who was still at the sandbar on the Ohio River, got on horses and began galloping into town. In their zeal, they did not identify themselves, and many were wounded and killed by their own artillery, which was still located on the hills above town. The artillery had been told that the fighting would be done on foot. So when Company A came into town to help in the fight, the artillery crew thought that they were Union soldiers who came to help the Bracken County Home Guard. The battle inside of the city was fierce. There was hand-to-hand combat going on, and many were on the second floors of the building picking off soldiers one by one. There was also home guardsmen that were giving up under the flag of truce. Basically, it was chaos. Duke ordered one of his artillery bullpups to fire at short range at the buildings that the home guard was defending. This, along with other deliberate actions on the part of the Confederates, led to the burning down of 20 buildings. Many of the buildings still had defenders inside of them who burned to death because they were trapped in the rubble. Duke withdrew his men to Brooksville as his artillery ammunition was dangerously low and left behind a burning Augusta in his wake. The Battle of Brooksville. The reaction to what happened at Augusta was shocking and swift. Various small commands of the Union forces were now on the move toward Augusta. They mistakenly thought that Duke was still in the town, but they learned that Duke was in Brooksville and was converging on that area. Brooksville was the county seat of Bracken County, and according to the 1860 census, only had a population of just over 250 residents. On September 28th, Duke was still in Brooksville, and his men were patrolling the prisoners that were taken from Snow's Pond and Augusta when suddenly a federal force attacked. According to the Battle of Brooksville, Kentucky, September 28, 1862, by Darrell R. Smith. A report of Lieutenant Colonel H. Blair Wilson, 44th Ohio Infantry, relayed how the Battle of Brooksville happened. Quote, I therefore ordered my detachment of the 44th Ohio Volunteers to charge at double quick time down into town. And I ordered the artillery and the remainder of my force to follow them promptly at quick time. This was the first notice that Colonel Duke had of our presence. He, with a guard of 25 men, was in the courthouse at that moment, and he was patrolling prisoners. Some of my cavalry, seeing the 44th running into town, became excited, and imprudently, and without orders, rushed in advance of the 44th down a road leading to the rear of the courthouse. Colonel Duke rushed out, mounted his men, and dashed off on the Falmouth Road, passing within 25 yards of my detachment of the 44th Ohio, which mistook them for our own men, who had charged around the courthouse. They were dressed very much as our own cavalry. I felt greatly annoyed, but under the circumstances, I could not censure the men for not firing upon them. We pressed to the other side of town, and perceiving that the main body had halted about a half a mile distance on hearing the alarm, I ordered the artillery into position and commenced shelling them. The third shot exploded in their midst, killing 6 and wounding 1, when they retreated precipitously towards Falmouth and were soon out of range of our cannon. Between 30 and 40 prisoners were released that Duke did not have time to parole. Some of them rushed out and fled. I do not know the precise number thus released. Our loss was 1 killed. He belonged to the 14th Kentucky Cavalry. He was shot from the alley, I think, by a citizen of Brooksville about the same time Colonel Duke escaped from the courthouse, unquote. The skirmish was very small and did not last long. Duke would once again withdraw, but this time to Falmouth, Kentucky. Aftermath. The Battle of Augusta would be a Confederate victory for the Confederate Heartland offensive. Of the Union's 150 troops, the casualties would be 12 killed, 3 wounded, and 125 would be taken prisoner. The Confederacy had 450 troops, and their casualties would number 21 killed and 18 wounded. Even though the skirmish was a Confederate victory, Duke considered the heavy losses in men and ammunition for his artillery. Duke felt that he had to abandon his plans to cross over the Ohio River, so he returned to Falmouth, Kentucky. Thank you. We at Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the Appalachian Civil War battles. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification button. Please double check to make sure that you are subscribed, as some of our viewers are finding that they are no longer subscribed to our channel. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Appalachian history.